So I'm going to keep it real with you. I feel like video games in 2022 have kind of been, disappointing. There really hasn't been any sort of crazy announcements or crazy reveals. We pretty much knew what games were going to come out in the first part of the year. A lot of those games ended up getting delayed and stuff. It feels like that's been sort of the focus, has been, games getting delayed instead of new games getting announced for the year. But finally, things are about to start getting fun because we have entered into E3 season. Now, of course, there is no actual E3, but the month of June is a very important month for video games because you pretty much start to showcase the stuff that you're talking about in the second half of the year. Depending on the company, you might talk about early 2023 things or even beyond that. Obviously, Xbox is going to have an event next week, so we're not focusing on them. So Xbox fanboys, calm down. We'll talk about you next week. But this week, I want to focus on both Nintendo and Sony because they both have some major presentations happening this week, and I think it's very exciting. Things are finally going to start getting fun. Things are finally going to start getting crazy with these companies, and thank God. Thank God. So we'll start off with Nintendo first because a Nintendo related presentation for Switch owners will be happening tomorrow. Now, this event will be happening on June 1st at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So a little bit early in the morning. RGT is not really an early riser, but I'll deal with it. And this involves Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. I guess they're sort of foregoing a standard Pokemon Direct presentation. Usually we have a Pokemon Direct presentation before a Nintendo Direct. I really think there's going to be a Nintendo Direct next week, but we'll talk about that later on in the week. But this is sort of the first sign that things are going to be getting very fun. Now, this trailer that is happening will sort of showcase both gameplay from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and of course talk about the games themselves and give us some new information on it because, well, really, we don't have a whole lot of information on them. We've gotten sort of a little teaser trailer to show off the game, and really the whole gameplay loop for this game seems to be the more open world mechanic. Now, in this footage, I'm going to be showing mostly Pokemon Legends Arceus stuff because I feel like that's, kind of the indication of how the Pokemon franchise is moving. Now, Pokemon Legends Arceus, I think it's Arceus. I don't know. It's been a while since I've talked about that game. Pokemon Legends Arceus was a turning point for the Pokemon franchise, in my opinion, because for the first time in a very long time, I was like, wow, this is fresh. This is new. This is fun. And really, when playing that game, the whole time I kept thinking to myself, well, how is Pokemon going to go back to that standard gameplay loop where, it's a segmented game and, how it works. It's been very traditional really since the original Game Boy games came out with Red and Blue. But now the Pokemon Company finally seems to be learning that, hey, people like a little bit of a refresh here. While the classic stuff is great, you also have to offer something else with these games in order to keep them fresh and relevant and keep people excited for the franchise. Pokemon Legends Arceus really brought me back into Pokemon. Now, I'm not going all crazy. I don't have the Pokemon cards. You're not going to see a big Pikachu plush behind me or, anything like that. But it got me excited for the games again after a long time feeling of them just being stagnated. I never played Sword and Shield. It was like, I've been down this road before. The offshoot games were kind of fun. The Pokemon Go stuff, like, okay, that was okay. But I wanted to see this franchise evolve. And I think tomorrow is going to be a very important thing for Nintendo owners because this is like, mainline stuff here. Now, Pokemon Legends Arceus was obviously a mainline game, but it wasn't like a generational game. You know how the Pokemon games have Gen 9, Gen 8, Gen 7. I don't know. I'm not a Pokemon expert. Go watch a Pokemon expert if you want stuff like that. But for me, it's always been about advancing the franchise, finally stepping up to the plate and being like, we need to expand upon this. We need to do more with Pokemon as a brand, as an IP, and more importantly, with the game. So I'm actually very excited for this. I want to see how the open world mechanic is going to work. I want to see how the battle system is going to work compared to Legends Arceus. I really feel like they should have that Legends Arceus battle system. And I know so many diehard Pokemon fans were like, oh, I don't like this. This is not the Pokemon I grew up playing. But it's like, it needs to advance. You've been playing the same Pokemon game for 20 years, 20 plus years. Embrace a little change with it, embrace a little advancement with it. So I'm very excited to see what ends up happening with this. Of course, we will be covering this presentation tomorrow on the channel, but it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big thing, a kind of almost like a make or break for Game Freak. Can they truly adapt to modern gaming after just focusing on handheld for so many years? And you know, that's showing in the quality of their console games as time has gone on. And then, not to be outdone, on Thursday, June 2nd, Sony will be hosting a State of Play presentation, roughly 30 minutes long, talking about some upcoming PS5 titles, including some PSVR 2 information. So what's interesting about this presentation to me is the fact that they pretty much have said it's going to be a third-party related thing, not focusing on first-party stuff. And that's kind of weird because I feel like we should be talking about a God of War Ragnarok release date by now. I mean, obviously this game looks to be coming in 2022. We talked about the whole Koreans ratings board thing with this game. Sony has doubled down saying it's going to be a 2022 game. This to me seems like a good time and place to talk about that. Maybe for whatever reason they haven't gotten it etched in stone yet. So it looks like we're just going to be learning about VR stuff and third-party stuff. Now, when it comes to PSVR 2, I'm kind of interested to see how they've sort of advanced it. You know, I've kind of gotten into VR gaming with my Oculus Quest 2. I think it's pretty fun. It's not going to replace how I play video games because, you know, it's a novelty thing. It's sort of a niche thing, but you can get some very interesting experiences with things like PSVR 2. Resident Evil 4 in Oculus Quest 2 is freaking amazing. Like, it feels like a whole new fresh game. And obviously there's a lot of Sony titles that would really feel good with things like this. I'm looking at you, Gran Turismo 7. Yes, I'm ready to throw up all over the place from motion sickness playing this in PSVR 2. I'm sure we'll learn about things like hardware specs, price point, all that sort of stuff. Release date potentially, maybe this is a 2022 release, a big holiday release for PlayStation and the PlayStation 5, but my interest is sort of peaked in this. I've definitely sort of enjoyed VR gaming a little bit more than I thought I would. Still never going to be a complete substitute for the traditional setup, but I do think it is fun. I'm just very worried about the price point of that thing because I think it's going to be expensive as hell. There's no way it's under $400. There's no way. And couple that with the fact that PS5s are $500 are hard as hell to get. I don't know, man. It could be a very risky venture. But then, of course, we have the third-party stuff to talk about. And that's where things get absolutely crazy because you're hearing about all these potential games there. Games like Silent Hill, games like Resident Evil 4 Remake, games like Final Fantasy 16. With at least with Final Fantasy 16, we've seen this game. We know what this game is bringing to the table. It's just been a little while since they've talked about it. The whole Silent Hill thing, I was of the mindset that there is no new Silent Hill. But, you know, with that big leak, Konami taking down all of the information and the screenshots when it was initially posted about it, it's kind of like, well, wait a minute. Maybe there is a Silent Hill game coming out. Konami, of course, will not be developing it themselves because I guess they don't make video games anymore. They just make pachinko machines and outsource their licensing, but that's fine, you know, at least do something with the licensing. Of course, once again, talking about Resident Evil 4, supposedly there's a massive remake happening with this game, which honestly I think is a bit weird because the game does feel very modern when you still play it, but it does have sort of the feeling that they could have done a little bit more in terms of story with the game and of course the actual horror element, because for a lot of people Resident Evil 4 was kind of a turning point for the game. It no longer was really a horror only game, a survival horror only game. It was more of an action game with a lot of horror elements, and that's fine. You know, it was obviously very successful for them, but I do miss the more scary stuff, you know, even with current Resident Evil stuff. Resident Evil 7 was way scarier than Resident Evil 8. I don't think I was ever like terrified in Resident Evil 8. Maybe a little bit of the stuff with the Lady D, you know, in the house portion of the game, but that was so early in the game. The later stages of the game felt like a action adventure game with like no horror elements whatsoever. Then of course you have the mystery. Well, what other third-party games are going to be at this presentation for Sony? With a lot of major companies being purchased by Microsoft, such as Activision and Bethesda, you know, those were big key sellers on PlayStation systems, and usually your Call of Duties and stuff like that ended up getting showcased during these presentations for Sony. So what are they going to have to sort of circumvent that? What do they have to fill out this 30-minute presentation? All I know is things are finally getting very exciting for video games. Obviously, Xbox owners will have an exciting week next week with their big presentation happening. You know, I think Nintendo owners, this is just sort of the tip of the iceberg. We're going to get a Nintendo Direct. I really feel like it's going to be next week, but I won't put any money on that or anything like that. But obviously, we're going to learn about a lot of stuff from that. So very exciting times for video games. Finally, we could talk about positive things such as new games, new trailers, new gameplay stuff, release dates, instead of just being like, another game got delayed, boys and girls. Another game got delayed. So let me know in the comment section down below what you're looking forward to this week. And this is just the announced stuff. Who knows if there's some other stuff happening this week as well. Obviously, Summer Games Fest happens next week too with my buddy Jeff Keighley. I'm watching you, Jeff. I'm watching you, and you're watching me now. So let's get on the same page about stuff like this. Just very exciting time for video games. Let me know what you're looking forward to and hope to see in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share the video around. Turn on the bell notification or go to hell. I'm just kidding with that. I don't want you to go to hell, but I do want you to hit the bell notification. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.